With the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a short message from Kay first.
So the Winona County Board at the February 14th meeting reappointed Jordan Potter based on the recommendation from the Board of Adjustment members as your liaison to the Planning Commission. Congratulations.
So the next item is approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any corrections or additions to the agenda? Otherwise,
Move to approve.
we have a motion by Ed and a second by Kelsey. And so petitions. Yeah.
All those in favor?
Oh, yes. Sorry. All those in favor of the approving the
Aye.
Aye.
all in favor. All right. So we'll move on to the petitions. We have docket number BOA 02-16-2301, Clinton and Megan Cabley. And Lou will be giving a presentation for that. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped the approval of the agenda. Sorry, I don't do this very often. Does anyone want to have any corrections or additions to the agenda? Does it look good? I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda, if so.
Second.
So moved.
Okay. Motion by Ed and a second by Kelsey. And so now we can move on to Lou's presentation. Oh, we need to vote still. All in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor.
Do this a couple more times and it'll be like
All right.
second nature. Is it going to maximize maybe? So, the petition today is to allow a structure, a wood shop, 90 feet from the center line of County Road 1 instead of the required 130 feet pursuant to Chapter 10.4.72A of the Winona County zoning ordinance. This afternoon, evening, the Planning Commission will also be hearing this, so it's not just the wood shop. This is a new building site. They'll be applying for a conditional use permit for a dwelling on less than 40 acres and within 300 feet of the top of the bluff in the Mississippi River Bluffs overlay district. So there's a couple of things on the Planning Commission's agenda tonight regarding this as well. But first, we're going to hear the variance for the front yard setback of the accessory structure. And we'll, okay. Oops. I think we hit it twice. There we are. The parcel location is in Dresbeck Township, section 19. You can see in the map there, the green parcel. On the left side, the little triangular shaped parcel is the proposed lot. It comes off of a larger 105 acre parcel that you can see the entirety of in this view. Just to the, I guess that would just be just to the east and across County Road 1. This is a little bit closer view. Hello. Of the general immediate vicinity of the parcel. In this view, you can see the existing 3.68 acre parcel that was created this past year. And the western half of the parent parcel the 105 acre parcel that it came from. You can also see Oak Hill Drive coming up from down below Mississippi River Valley and adjacent residences in the neighborhood, both to the north and to the south of the proposed parcel, to give an idea of the development pattern in that location and size of parcels and whatnot.
Lou, while we're on this topic, could you explain for us which parcel or which portion of the parcel the subject parcel came from?
Yeah, I can, well, point that out to you. This is the 105 acre parcel is this 1190 parcel. So that's 105 acres. You can see it was originally it was it was a couple of 40, so it's a quarter section is 40 acres. And then this is the corner that was across County Road 1.
What is the parcel immediately to the west of the subject parcel?
This one here?
Yes.
Parcel 0055. It's there's a dwelling on it here.
Is that the neighbor that wrote the letter?
The most immediate neighbor. Yep. There's also another dwelling here, 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 and here. Possibly here. Another dwelling down here on this parcel and this parcel. This is the home on the parent parcel down in the valley as well. So they have an old farmhouse there as well.
Were the residences on those parcels that you just pointed to, were they granted a variance?
Oh, I'd have to go back and check our files. I don't know if there's been variances.
But you don't know how long they've been there?
I think that most of them were splits in the late 80s. I think Eric would actually have some history on that. Yeah, I think they were split in the late 80s and then developed over the years since then. Yeah, I haven't gone into each of the history of each of the neighboring parcels and how they were developed. So, but yeah, they were. I can tell you that most of them are Charles Skemp properties. He developed Queens Cove subdivision that's down in the valley. He's also split a number of these roughly 5 acre parcels, give or take a little bit, along County Road 1 in that time period around the late 80s. This slide is going to show you the roughly the site plan for how the petitioners would like to develop the site. Shows the proposed wood shop. The red lines are the 130-foot setback from the center line. That's what that's representing. So you can see what 90 feet would kind of look like, approximately how that that footprint of the wood shop would look on there. And then also the proposed dwelling and the idea of how the driveway access would also lay out on the site. The wood shop is proposed to be 45 feet by 60 feet. And then I do have a note here about the CUP requirement for the dwelling that would be heard by the Planning Commission this evening. So slopes on the site, it's kind of a little bit hard to see, but there are topographic lines on here that represent 2-foot contours. You can see as they go down, if you're able to see those lines, they don't show up too well, like I said, but they get tighter as they go down the hill. There is a designated bluff that's down in this area, down this way. The setback to that bluff comes roughly in this area. which is 100 feet. So it'd be outside of that, that bluff setback. The slopes on the site of the wood shop are around 12%. Although you'll see in the photos that there is kind of a flat pad that's in that location.
What are the slopes where the proposed dwelling is?
That's more up around 16%.
Is there like a flatter area where the proposed dwelling is going to be also?
No, nope, that's just a sloping draw.
So there's about a 2% difference between the home site and the wood shop site.
Oh, it'd be a little bit more than that. 6 to 10% at the wood shop site, and more like 16% at the home site. So it's probably like 6% difference. The wood shop's more at the top of the hill, so it flattens off. The road comes off. It actually climbs up slightly, and then that's about where the wood shop would be, kind of at the crest of the hill almost. And then the home would be down the slope a little ways.
What are the sort of the reasons or requirements why the wood shop is closer to the road versus putting the house there in the wood shop where the proposed dwelling is? Could that be done?
Well, I mean, either way, you'd be looking at a variance, right?
Yes.
Right.
The house, of course, has a smaller footprint, and I haven't seen the site. I have no construction or engineering expertise. The question in my mind is, if the dwellings were flip-flopped, would you need a variance if you put the dwelling where the proposed wood shop is?
Yeah, I mean, you're still gonna need, there's not enough room there to put the dwelling without a variance on that pad. I mean, most of the flat area there is within the setback. I think you can ask them what their thought processes were, but I think that the house is better accommodated for like a walkout, and can be accommodated within a slope. They kind of need a little bit of slope for a walkout. A wood shop or a shed like that would need to create a larger cut and fill site in order to place that on the slope. You're not setting it into the hillside like a home would be.
So does it come down to a financial issue to not put the wood shop where the home is? Is it just
That
money?
hasn't been part of the conversation, or
It has something to,
Well,
yeah.
Mr. Chair, could we kind of aggregate the discussion after the staff presentation and then response by the petitioners might clarify some of the questions?
Yeah,
Thank you. I'll withhold any further questions.
here's a photo, a drawing of the proposed wood shop design. Give you an idea of what the petitioners are thinking about. New parcel was created in 2002, as I stated. The Ag Resource Conservation District is the zoning district, which it is in. It's also within the Mississippi River Bluffs Overlay District. The wood shop is considered a permitted accessory use. The petitioners are proposing to house a home occupation within it. Actually, two different businesses that they run, a carpentry business, as well as a wedding. I don't know. I'll let them describe that more. But there are two home occupations. We've looked at it. I think that they would most likely be permitted uses, so there wouldn't be a conditional use required for it. but just wanted to bring that to your attention. Mississippi River Bluffs do require additional standards for lighting, building materials, vegetation, in order to design the site in a more sensitive way, given the location. County Road 1 is considered a scenic byway, Apple Blossom Drive. And the right-of-way of County Road 1 is 50 feet from the center line. A couple photos. You can see the picture was taken about where the yellow triangle is here, facing the proposed building site. So we're looking that way at the building site. This is approximately what it looks like. You can see a row of conifers along County Road 1 that would be kept, and then the room for vegetative buffer, between the build site and the road is would be maintained. Another photo here. The road, you can see the conifers from the other side, from the road side, looking to the southeast. The proposed building site would be back behind here. Dresbach Township has signed off on the township acknowledgement form. They indicated no comments. And we haven't heard anything from them since then. Recommendation, as always, is to consider all materials and testimony before making findings that support your decision. There are draft findings within the staff report. And should you decide to approve the petition, staff has drafted 3 conditions for consideration. That's all I have at this time. If you have any questions right now, that's fine. Otherwise, you can hear from the petitioners, and then public comment, and we're always available after that. Sure.
There's 2 different things in here. Which one is are they both current? One has an extra building on it and the other one does not.
Yeah,
The one we're looking at?
the one with the extra building was what the applicants had submitted. That more represents what they submitted.
Okay.
Um,
And what's the distance approximately between like the dwelling and the wood shop space wise right there? If that other building isn't there, roughly.
yeah, let's see here.
Looks like it could be a similar distance.
I think in there, I mean, there is a, I mean, I would say it's probably about 60 to 80 feet. But there is a scale on in your packet on the mapping exhibits that you could scale it out a little bit and get an idea of what that looks like.
So just for clarification, the footprint of the proposed dwellings is what you have on the screen?
Well, roughly, yes.
So that extra footprint that we see in the packet is or is not a proposed footprint?
That's what they submitted.
So is it or isn't it a proposed
It's what they
footprint?
submitted. So it is what it's what's on the map. Yep.
So what you have up there is,
They don't need to have a exact footprint of what they're proposing.
But
They
what
that can change between now and then. So it gives you an idea of what they're proposing.
But-
So we're not pinning them down to like, that's exactly what they're going to build or not.
but it helps the board to have accurate.
Yep. And so that's as accurate as we got is what is on those 2 maps.
So do we know which one we're going to we're making our decision.
You
on?
could, I don't think that it would make much of an impact, depending
Yeah,
on either.
This variance only
So-
applies to the building that's within the setback. So
I-
really, I don't think we should be considering much to do with the dwelling as far as this variance goes.
It's just an idea
It's just
of
more
what
of a
they're
question.
proposing.
Yeah,
It's not
More of a
exact.
Question of like the space between the house and the building and if it could get backed up.
yeah. I see.
Will they have to come back for another variance to build the dwelling?
No, no, that'll be heard by the planning commission tonight. And again, it's a rough location. What they're looking at is allowing it as a building site. The development certificate, if they get approved, they'll have to come back for a construction permit, and that will pin them down for a footprint at that time.
So
It sounds like the, whatever we do, the conditional use permit would have to be issued to let everything go forward, correct?
Correct. Yes. You're only looking at the setback of 90 feet as opposed to 130 feet for the wood shop. That's all you're going to be considering today.
So in theory, if this were approved by this board and the conditional use permit does not issue, then nothing goes forward, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, the conditional use permit allows it to be a building site. As an accessory structure, you do need a primary structure, which would be the dwelling. So without approving the dwelling, we wouldn't allow an accessory structure, as it's currently proposed.
all right, would the petitioner like to address the board? Assume you know the drill and state your name and address for us.
My name is Clint Cabley. I currently live at 1008 Juniper Street in La Crescent, Minnesota.
Short. My name is Megan Cabley. I live at 1008 Juniper Street in La Crescent as well.
I am the owner and operator of Westwood Fine Carpentry LLC. I'm the only member of this business. I don't have any employees. The purpose and intent of the proposed wood shop or workshop would be primarily for the operation of Westwood Fine Carpentry, as well as a personal shop and storage space, as well as a space large enough to park an 18-foot trailer inside. I currently operate Westwood Fine Carpentry out of our oversized single car garage in La Crescent. So essentially, I just need a larger carpentry shop in order to operate. And we wish to be able to do this at our future home site. The other partial use of this facility would be in conjunction with our other business, Resource Vintage Rental LLC. The only use of this facility for that business would be for a fabrication or creation of rental items. So we rent out items for events such as weddings, parties, that sort of thing. And we've created a number of items such as wood tables, backdrop, walls, props, arbors, that sort of thing for rent. And we currently have a large storage facility for Resource Vintage Rental in West Salem, Wisconsin. it's not our plan or intention at all to move any of that rental inventory to this proposed shop or to operate Resource Vintage Rental in any capacity out of this proposed shop at all. So the only use that Resource Vintage Rental would use with this shop would be to perhaps make some tables, other rental items for fabrication, and occasional maintenance needed for these rental items that we have occasionally. The size of the shop, for one, wouldn't allow us to operate our business Resource Vintage Rental out of this because it just simply wouldn't be enough room for us. We need to have all of our rental items in one place where we can meet with clients in that one place where we can more easily keep track of our inventory in that one place. And so for that reason, we have no plans to operate Resource Vintage Rental out of this shop. So there would be no meeting with clients here. There would be no pickup and return of rentals. We don't even want to have a sign for either business out at the road. We don't wish for random passersby to stop in at the property, seeing a sign and, thinking they can come in and say hello or whatever. That's not the intent of this. And another major point that I just wanted to bring up is that we certainly are very sensitive to the way that this is going to look from the road. We're sensitive to neighbors' concerns about property values and this sort of thing. So we intend to build a structure that is, number one, beautiful. Number two, blends in with the landscape. Looks like it grew there, so to speak, or belongs with the landscape. Is consistent with other properties in the neighborhood, and also can be considered to be somewhat historically accurate as compared to other similar type buildings in the area. We're definitely looking to use a varied exterior coverings for this building, such as wood siding, perhaps corrugated metal, large overhangs, this sort of thing. What we don't want to build is just sort of a vanilla looking building that's all covered in metal or something like that. And what we don't intend to have is some type of a factory sort of thing. My intention for any foreseeable future is that I'm the only person involved in this operation, and if not me, it would be one employee, and that's really about it. The nature of Westwood Fine Carpentry is such that I specialize in custom carpentry projects. It can vary from any sort of interior trim detail in a house, such as cabinets, built-ins, molded trim, that sort of thing, to custom-made furniture items. So a large amount of the carpentry work that I do is actually on a job site somewhere other than where this is proposed to be located. So this would be used to say, make cabinets or furniture, that type of thing. Oftentimes with those items being taken to a job site somewhere else for installation. So I would say that the percentage of my time spent working for Westwood Fine Carpentry might be 30 to 40% like in shop. The rest of the time would be probably on site on a job site somewhere. If I had an employee, I would expect that to be about the same. There would be days where they would be working in the shop, and there would be days where they would be working on a job site somewhere. So, so the work at the shop would be intermittent, and we would certainly, I would be more focused towards normal business hours, that kind of thing. So, as far as noise abatement and this type of thing, again, we'd be very sensitive to our neighbors' concerns and requests and this sort of thing. I plan for this building to be fully insulated and perhaps even over-insulated, with the vast majority of the work taking place inside the building. As far as dust collection systems go, I would plan for all dust collection systems to be contained within the building, to certainly comply with the Minnesota Fire Code, and of course, any insurance regulations that would be required of us by our insurance company. There really isn't any plan for some kind of large, like, exterior ventilation out of the building with some type of like large ventilation fans installed on the outside of the building. So I'm just not anticipating much in the way of noise on the exterior of the building. Any ventilated, well, I should back up. I was going to address ventilated spray finishes or that sort of thing. A fair number of my projects, I am looking to contract with an outside subcontractor who does specialty finishing of wood products. So certainly a number of projects may very well be finished off-site at a different location. Any ventilated spray finishes or that type of thing would be most likely ventilated towards the northeast there, which I believe would be, the prevailing winds would mostly carry it away from our neighbors. And that type of thing is going to be really seldom and intermittent. It certainly isn't going to be a daily occurrence.
I think we should probably address the amended size.
Yeah. As far as the size goes, we asked for that 45 by 60 footprint as an initial, to be approved of that size, thinking that's kind of what we were looking for. And in kind of our more initial preliminary plans, we're looking at just a bit smaller. We're looking at like a 42 by 56 footprint. Let's see, what else can I tell you?
Maybe we can answer any questions.
Do you guys have any questions
Yes.
that come to mind?
Following up on my questions to Lou, tell me your thought process on the location of the buildings with the wood shop closer to Apple Blossom.
Mm-hmm. So as Lou said, in this area, it is a bit flatter, not flat, but it's a bit less slope. So there's a berm that runs all along here from the construction of the road. And we'd be on the other side of that berm. And in this area, It's about a 6 to 10% slope versus a 14 to 16% slope down here. This particular structure would work best if it was a concrete slab, one level for the entire structure. So it would work better to place that structure here where the slope is less. There would be less excavation required. And our other thought is to sort of minimize the length of the driveway that's required, to minimize that disturbance and minimize the costs associated with an extra driveway. The other thought of having the house lower down on the slope would be for just some added privacy from the road for the dwelling. And also, as Lou commented, the house as a multi-level structure would work better on the steeper slope, being able to build a walkout type of a lower level with that. The thought with the driveway being the way it is, what I'm going to need to be able to do is pull in the driveway with a trailer and be able to back that trailer up to the shop. So with this configuration, it would work well to drive in this way forward with the trailer and then back up to the shop. If, for example, the shop was flipped on the other side, we would still want the house in this general location and in this general configuration with the driveway coming around this way. And actually and this isn't a totally accurate shape of what the dwelling would be, but with the dwelling, we figure on the garage would be more on this sort of north side with the driveway coming into it. And then the, the main living area of the house focused towards the south and west and east. If the shop was flipped to this side, it would have the result of pushing the driveway farther down onto here. And I believe it would ultimately lengthen the driveway, but what we would also need is a turnout here to be able to pull a trailer in here and then back up to the shop. So ultimately, that would increase the amount of driveway we would have to construct, increase the disturbance, and that, more potential for erosion and that sort of thing. So that's kind of the thinking of the layout of the site.
And I may have misled you with my questioning. Did you ever contemplate what I would refer to as a flip-flop of the workshop with the proposed dwelling?
Right, you're saying putting the shop down the hill.
Shop further away from the road.
Mm-hmm.
The dwelling looks like it would be smaller and perhaps may not need as much, if any, of a variation from the setback as you need with the larger building.
Mm-hmm. So there's two considerations there. The one that I mentioned before with the shop basically needing or working best with just a one level slab. And to put that farther down the hill would require more excavation for that building.
Would it be doable?
Well, anything's doable. Financially for us, it would be more difficult, certainly. It would require probably more retaining wall construction and that sort of thing. The other problem with that, if I may, if we had a shop building down below, to think of coming down a drive with a trailer. So to think of coming down a drive with a trailer toward a shop building, it's going to be very difficult to get that trailer turned around to back up to a shop building down here. I mean, really what you would need is, you would either need to back down this driveway, which is not easy, Or you'd have to come down and have a turnout that you could turn into and then back into that way. So that would create a lot more driveway and disturbance in that scenario.
So it sounds like you probably looked at the site, decided which buildings would be best in which locations,
Right.
probably didn't run the numbers on putting the wood shop further to the, away from the road. Does that sound right?
Right. And to be fair, I mean, we haven't run actual numbers for either structure at this point. It's, it's like a preliminary planning stage, and then you present it to a builder and they give you an idea of, what this is going to cost. And then you either move forward or you go back to the drawing board, if it's too much. So,
And are you planning to build both structures at the same time?
no, we would build the shop first, and that would be another purpose for the shop, is to provide both a carpentry shop space and a storage space to facilitate the building of the dwelling. As I'm a carpenter, I would want to do a lot of the finish work myself in the dwelling.
So just hypothetically, assuming the wood shop variance is approved here and the conditional use permit is approved, rough, tough, what would you expect the timing to be to put the wood shop up? When would you plan to do that?
Well, hopefully this year.
And then how about the house?
Best case scenario, we would move forward with a design for the house in the fall probably, and hope to break ground on that spring of 2024.
Would there be a time period that you would be then operating the wood shop without the house being constructed?
There might be a short time period in there, next winter. Yep. Yeah, fall and winter, I would say. And
Those are all my questions.
Any questions?
You covered them.
All right, thanks.
thank you.
So now we need to open the public hearing. Do you have a motion for that?
I'll motion to open the public hearing.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's all in favor. So would anyone from the public or online like to come to the mic and state your name and address and speak on this variance?
Hi, my name's Marilee Hedberg, 31501 County Road 1.
Hi, I'm Steve Hedberg, also at 31501 County Road 1.
Anyway, thanks so much for allowing us this opportunity to address the adjustment group. And thanks for all the information. I think that our letter has been read, and I'm sure by all of you. And we just wanted to take a moment to speak. It's been really helpful, even just learning what we've learned just now. We still have additional questions. I understand from what Lou said that no additional concerns have been brought forward by Dresbach Township. I assume that means the supervisors of Dresbach Township, but I do think that this group has probably received a number of comments from Dresbach Township residents who were not aware that Clint and Megan were going to be presenting on the topic. So this is where we come from in our context, not having heard their presentation or any of the discussion that might have gone in at Dresbach Township that led to the swift approval without condition. And so it's in that spirit that we come here today to get our concerns out on the table. And Clint has done a nice job of addressing point by point a number of the things that we brought up as concerns. With us today here also is a representative of the Skemp family, who is the other nearest neighbor, and he may come up and speak. But for now, if you could go, Lou, if you could go back to the slide that shows the picture of the lots and how the 3.68, that's the one. Oh, actually the bigger one that shows, that's, I like that. Okay, I'll try to speak from here. So both in the aerial and then also in this depiction, we are in the nearest parcel right there. And we additionally own the property immediately behind, as well as another 40 acres on the other side of Lane Valley that go into New Hartford Township. So we've got 100 acres behind our home. So to address, I think, Elizabeth's question about these smaller parcels, that's us, and that's the roof of our house that you see in the other aerial photo as well. The 3 5-acre parcels, and I know Lou will probably want to confirm this with the county records, but those 3 parcels are approximately 5 acres each. They were established prior to Rural Heritage. They were parceled out by Chuck Skemp, who owned a great deal of property on North Ridge and invested a lot of care into those properties. We, in fact, looked at one of those 5-acre parcels back in 1995 when we
could keep the public comments to about 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll move along.
The
questions.
This variance.
Okay, I wanted to do what I could to help clear up that earlier question. Thank you. So in our letter, we tried to boil our concerns down into 3 kind of major buckets. We still have a little bit of a lingering concern that you might be inadvertently approving the operation of a commercial business, particularly if the business is in place before the residence. What if the residence never comes about and it just stands as a commercial business? So I would pose the question, when was the last time that Winona County approved a commercial business on County Road 1 on a parcel under 5 acres? I don't recall in the 28 years we've lived up there. And then in addition to that, it being over the setback and 90 feet from the center of the road is somewhat concerning. I don't know how that interacts with utility lines and other things that might be buried there. So I would ask that this group do their due diligence around precedent, particularly looking forward. There are a lot of people who own property up there that is divisible, even into 40-acre lots that might be considering development. And so just consider the precedent that you might be setting. Additionally, I think we made it clear in our letter that we have concerns about the fact that this is not just a saw and hammer and boards kind of a operation. There's going to be commercial sized equipment that Clint is going to be using, and that does pose a little bit of a concern to us. Also of note is with regard to waste or debris management. The area that you see behind where the wood shop is intended to be placed.
Can you go back to the site location for the wood shop?
Yeah, that is an invasive, there's a lot of invasive species in there. And so while I understand that they're going to keep the trees along the road for a buffer, what's going to happen behind that building in the area between the rear of the building and our home, if that's going to be cleared out of buckbrush and used for outdoor storage, or as their letter stated, potentially small livestock. I don't know if it's permissible to have both livestock and commercial business on the same property. So those are some of the questions and concerns we have. I don't know if you've got anything to add.
Just one thing, there are buried power lines here. And you can see the power box for our building right there. So they buried, these were above ground at one time, these were buried about 10 years ago. And that's why it's flat, because the power company came and flattened it out. So my question is, how close to that utility easement is that wood shop proposal? And if it's actually built on top of the power lines, I don't think the utility company is going to be very happy about that. So I would caution that that be part of the conversation and that be addressed at that time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anyone else from the public have, would like to come up and comment?
Sure, would you like us to respond to those questions?
I suppose you could take your 3 minutes if you'd like.
Well, I can address the buried power line.
Say your name and address again, just. for
Okay,
the record.
Clint Cabley, 1008 Juniper Street, La Crescent. So we had all the buried lines located out there. The shop would be located enough to away from that buried power line as to not disturb that. So that would be that would certainly drive the location of the sort of the northeast edge of the building. So yeah, we don't want to have anything to do with just from a cost standpoint. And you know, I don't even know what the utility company would say about possibly moving it. It couldn't be built on top of it. They just wouldn't allow that. But in order to move those lines would be an associated cost that we don't want to take on. So the building would be definitely located far enough away from those as to not disturb those lines. As far as the vegetation to the between us and Steve and Marilee, I think we are thinking that we would want as much of a vegetative barrier remaining in place as possible. Absolutely are sensitive to their privacy concerns and that sort of thing, which obviously more vegetation helps with even more with noise abatement. And as far as outdoor storage, just not planning on much of any kind of outdoor storage of like wood products or anything like that. The only thing wood related I can think of would be like firewood. But I don't, both from a security standpoint, I wouldn't want to store any sort of stock, lumber, or anything outside. And also from a protection from the elements type of standpoint. So did you address the livestock?
Yeah, Megan Cabley, 1008 Juniper Street, La Crescent. We have 6 chickens right now. That's what I was talking about for livestock. And if in the future we had access to grazing animals to help us manage the invasive species like honeysuckle, we would like to bring that on site to help us reduce those numbers through browse. So
But that would be a temporary.
that would be a temporary type treatment. So thank you.
All right, would anyone else from the public like to address the Board of Adjustment on this variance?
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if you'd allow Lou to come up again for me to ask him another question.
When we get to our discussion, we can bring him back up, yeah. For the third and final time, would anyone like to address the board regarding this variance? All right, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
The motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Elizabeth and a second by Ed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor. So now we can go on ahead and discuss. Would you like to bring Lou back up for questions right away? Or okay, sorry.
Just one quick thing. People are very quiet today and somewhat distant from their microphones. Maybe just speak up just a tiny bit
Okay.
so that we get a good recording. Thank you.
I would like to add a little bit more to my presentation as well. I think I forgot to mention public comments, and that was brought up as in the testimony here. But we did get a township acknowledgement form which had no comments. They didn't. They usually have three options. They can either recommend approval, recommend denial, or choose to not comment. And the Dresbeck Township Board chose to not comment.
Just to be clear, do they have to have, they don't need a public hearing to sign their township acknowledgement form, is that correct?
No, they just need to attend a township board meeting so that the township board considers it as a group. Going to a township supervisor that you know and going to their home and having them sign off on it themselves isn't good enough. They have to consider it as a board.
This meeting itself would be the public's first option to comment on this variance, correct?
Right. Yeah. First official, opportunity. Exactly. We also sent the petition to the County Highway Department. Department head Dave Kramer. He reviewed it for County Highway Department concerns and responded that they don't have concerns with the proposal as it has been presented. We did get 3 public comments from neighbors, and I believe 2 of them are in your packet. And then there was one that came late, and that's on it's a hard copy that was on your desk there for your review. So there were 3 public comments that were included for the record. I think most of the concerns have been addressed in the presentations and question and answer that's gone on so far. So if you have any other questions, I guess at this point, let me know. Or if you'd like to discuss amongst yourself.
Yes, thank you, Lou. So I need clarification. Technically, under the provisions of the zoning ordinance, is the wood shop considered an accessory use to the home?
Right, it would be an accessory structure, an accessory use to the primary function would be a dwelling. Yeah.
So technically, under the zoning ordinance, you'd need the house to exist before the wood shop would be a proper use under the zoning ordinance.
Correct. What we would require and what we've spoken with the applicants about, and this is precedent that the way that we've operated in the past as well, is if they want to build a shed, they need to be permitted for a dwelling. So we would require them to submit application for their development certificate for their dwelling as well as the shed. And along with that, also septic permits. So they'd have to go and have those developed and be submitted for permits. And we'd approve that all as a package. At which time they would be free to construct any portion of that that they wish initially. So if they wanted to build the accessory structure first, that's completely fine because it's been permitted. The dwelling has been permitted as well as a septic permit.
In theory, what happens if the home never gets built?
They would need to move forward on that in order to be in compliance with the zoning ordinance.
And what if they don't?
Well, we'd have to talk to legal. We've never had that problem. So we'd have to talk about how we'd address that. Yep.
When you've done this in the past, have you ever put a time period within which the dwelling must be constructed in the conditions for the variation?
We don't have any requirements like that in the zoning ordinance, and to my knowledge, we haven't included that as a condition. The permit is good for 5 years. So when we issue that permit's good for 5 years with the ability to extend it for 1 more year. So a total of 6 years. So the expectation would be is that they'd satisfy that permit within that time period.
So does the zoning ordinance have a provision that spells out what you've just recited, that once a permit is issued, you can have an accessory use that's accessory to a residence with a residence not existing?
No, that's not in the ordinance. It would just be what's in the ordinance is the requirement for permit, for requirement of a primary structure. So, that dwelling needs to be permitted. That's how we've interpreted that and operated.
Elizabeth?
What you just been talking about here, I was looking at the letter from Steve Bowen, and he says in that letter that the wood shop would violate established zoning regulations. Is that the regulation you were just discussing here? He's not clear which regulation.
I have no idea what that regulation would be.
Okay.
So my fundamental question is, why don't you require, under the permitting process, the house to go up, which would be proper, and then the wood shop or the accessory use to go up, so that when the accessory use goes up, it's legal within the four corners of the zoning ordinance?
We try to be flexible and meet property owners' wishes and their desires. I think that we need to recognize that a lot of people are do need to and only have the ability to construct a piece of their proposal to start. Sometimes they need that accessory structure for whatever reason in order to get to the point where they can build the primary dwelling. Not everybody has those abilities to be able to. There's just a lot of different circumstances out there, so we try to accommodate the breadth of different circumstances that exist and people's desires. And so, in doing that, that's been a practice that we've established as far as permitting goes.
And it sounds like with the established practice you've not had the situation in the past where you've permitted an accessory use to go up without a home, and the home then never being constructed.
Not that I'm aware of. No, not that I'm aware of.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
So, is there any further discussion? Any questions? What are you thinking? I could see it being very advantageous to have that accessory structure in place first, especially when it comes to erosion control and things like that, and being able to have materials on hand to handle those type of scenarios, and moving from the easier, less invasive construction point down to the steeper slope where things get a little more difficult.
Could you explain that a little more fully for me, Jordan?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we're gonna have a SWIP with this, right? If we go to the.
Yeah, so if you're over 12% slope, there would be a requirement for a landscape plan. It wouldn't be a full stormwater pollution prevention plan.
Okay.
But there would be the requirement of submitted plan to address erosion control during and after construction.
Yeah, I could see that being very helpful to be able to have, things like erosion control mat and whatever else you would need to manage that rainwater on the steeper slope. As an excavator, I can also see why you would want to start with that, why you'd want to keep that shed on the higher ground, because as soon as you go down onto that steeper slope, you're going to have to dig it in, and then you're going to have retaining walls. You're going to have steeper slopes where there would normally not be, and I think it would create a lot bigger problem. It seems to make the most sense to me. I went I drove up and took a peek at the property just to make sure I had a good grasp on it, and I can envision it now, and that having the shed up there seems much easier, especially if you're going to be pulling on and off the road with the trailer.
I guess my biggest thing was the difference between these two pictures, and even though I know that it's not, they can alter it. My thing was more along the lines of like, if they don't have this this structure here, could this shed get backed up a little bit further so that it's not quite over the line? Or
Yeah.
because I'm not sure what this distance is, or if that creates more of an issue with them backing up into it.
From what I saw on the property, it looks like the edge of where that shed is currently is where it really starts to kind of fall off.
Okay.
And so to me, it would make sense that they would want to have to basically have it there.
Okay.
And I don't think the location of the house is what's necessarily preventing it from going back any further so much as the slope.
Okay.
Any other input?
What are the practical construction excavation problems with putting the house up first and the shed second? I know you've explained a little bit of that. Could you go over that either more fully or again?
Well, I guess in this case, with him being one of the builders, having all his equipment on site and having power at the ready, not having to bring in generators and taking trailers on and off site every time you're working on it would make things go much more smoothly, I'm sure.
I think knowing that you've got all your stuff there and get your house done, he's talking about, hopefully this year to get that shed up, the wood shop, then they're poised then to start in on the house, and your concern about them getting to the house is alleviated because it isn't going to cost as much money to build if they're right there.
Yeah, and it won't take as long either.
And it won't take as long, yeah. Because the finish work in the shop isn't going to be what's needed in the house. And if they can get the exterior structure up fairly soon after the other one, to me, that makes the most sense too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess the one concern I have, I don't know that it's a concern. I'm curious that there's the pushback that there is in the neighborhood. From my point of view and my perceptions, it seems like these people are honestly respectful of the environment, and their plans show, I think, a lot of respect toward the neighbor, and they want to live that way themselves. And a wood shop is not a dirty job. When you manage the sawdust and the dust and that kind of thing, it smells wonderful. So I guess I would hope that there wouldn't be any, if it is approved, that there wouldn't be any spillover afterwards in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I guess I feel like all my concerns have been addressed. I don't know how the rest of you feel as far as that goes.
I mean, it seems like this Steve Bowen made the point that he needed a variance and he had to buy, it got denied. But in looking at what he wants the landowners to do by getting more land, they can't really do because it's owned by these other people over here. So they're kind of stuck with what they have.
Yeah, and I think
So that kind of sets that one aside. I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but they're stuck there. They don't have an option of buying any more
Yeah.
land. And it seems like the other two people, and I can't speak for them, but it seemed like a lot of their questions were addressed here. And because they didn't go to get that township meeting, they weren't like privy to all the details.
Earlier.
But I can't speak for them. That's just what I get from what I read from them and what was answered here. So.
Would anyone like to make a motion one way or the other on this variance? Are you satisfied with the conditions?
I want to read those again.
Make a motion to approve with the conditions.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Kelsey.
Oh, sorry. I would make a motion to approve with the conditions attached.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion by Kelsey and a second by Elizabeth to approve this variance with, as written, with the attached conditions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right, Kelsey, myself, and Elizabeth have voted aye, and Ed voted nay. So that will pass. Do I need to read the? Appeal to district court. All decisions by the Board of Adjustment and granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department, board, or commission of the jurisdiction of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after receipt of the notice of decision to the district court in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision rendered at this public hearing must do so to the district court. The planning commission is not responsible for filing the appeal. And I believe that's all that's on the agenda.
Make a motion to adjourn.
A motion by Kelsey to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.